has shaped the culture of goal setting and New Year resolutions. On business, Nigerian Customs Service APAPA Command revenue hits 518 billion naira for 2020. And in sports, Sheffield beats Newcastle to end 20-game winless run. Details of this and more after this break. I am Godslove Orlando. And now the news. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, said it will work with security agencies to prosecute any institution or candidate found breaching its admission code of operations. The board announced this in its latest weekly bulletin in Abuja. It stressed that henceforth, strict measures, including prosecution, will be taken against erring candidate or institution once a clear case has been established against them. The decision, the board explained, is part of its resolution after the management meeting on the imperative of ridding the admissions process of unwholesome practices. JAMB's registrar, Professor Isha Koloyede, was quoted as saying that the measures were being put in place to stop admission violations. The registrar noted that although the central admissions process system had made the admission process transparent, fair, and equitable, some stakeholders were working hard to bypass the system. The Joint Action Committee, JAC, of Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, and Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, has commenced a 3-day national protest. The protest followed an earlier statement by the NASU General Secretary, Peter Sadeyemi, and the SANU President, Mohammed Ibrahim, calling on all members in the branches of universities and inter-university centers across the nation to embark on industrial action. The members are protesting over irregularities in Integrated Payroll Personal Information System, IPPIS payments, non-payment of earned allowances, non-payment of arrears in minimum wage, among others. Chinedu Ekeja has more from the University of Benin chapter of the protest.
In 2009, the federal government, members of the Academic Staff Union of the Universities, NASU, and Senior Staff Association of Universities, SANU, reached an agreement. Part of the deal were the payment of over 20 billion naira in earned allowances, proper funding of universities, among others. Led by the chairman, Joint Action Committee, JAC of SANU and NASU, University of Benin chapter, Comrade Bodrick Osewa, and NASU chairman, UNIBEN, Comrade Anthony Binosa. The unions are asking the federal government to honor the agreement.
The payment of our minimum wage arrears is key. The federal government promised December. We are in January again. Then our end allowance, the money owed us since 2012 to date. We are even saying we are not asking for all. We are asking for 30 billion. If you can't pay all now, well, give us 30 billion as part of the money you are owing us, so that our people can also live.
Then the usurpation of headship of non-teaching units by academic staff taking over non-teaching staff positions is one of the issues.
The unions are also complaining that the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPIS, has not proven to be a fairly transparent payment platform since its introduction by the federal government. They said it has rather become a thorn on their flesh.
Since we joined IPIS, there have been irregularities. Some of our members, since we joined in February, have not received their salaries. They've collected our dues and third-party deductions. 8 months, 9 months, they've not remitted. That's criminal. And that's why we told federal government, we no more accept IPIS. We have our own system that we want them to say. We used to use JIPMIS, but they said this one is better. But what we are seeing now is something different. We are now being held hostage. They will collect our money, they will remit our money.
But beyond their personal demands, they are also asking the federal government to show more concern about the university system in Nigeria.
Then we have the issue of renegotiation of 2009 agreement. We also have the demand for the federal government to quickly constitute the visitation panels to all universities. Then we are also saying the federal government should properly fund federal universities. State universities too can also key in.
The 3 days protest is expected to elapse on Thursday, after which the national body will communicate to state chapters the next line of action. Chinedu Ekeja, KUFM News.
Coming up in a moment after the break, NAN set up COVID-19 task force ahead of school reopening. Details in a moment.
at split seconds. There's a lot happening around us, but we can't be everywhere all the time. We've got work, families, and chores to cater to, and most importantly, time to rest. And that's why having reliable partner like KUFM News is important. Sleeping? We don't. We work round the clock, bringing you stories as they break from Nigeria and across the world. We would stop at nothing to keep you informed, because KUFM News is all about you and stories that affect you. Politics, business, human interests, sports, entertainment, just name it. We've got you covered. KUFM News. Timely, precise, spot on.
Welcome back. It's still news done, and now to the rest of the news, where the National Association of Nigerian Students has urged the federal government and members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to resume academic activities at the nation's public universities. The students' body also ordered its chapters in all tertiary institutions to set up COVID-19 task force team to enforce all guidelines outlined by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and ensure safe reopening of schools. NAN's President Sunday Asefo said this in a statement on Tuesday. ASU on December 24th, 2020 conditionally suspended its 9-month-long strike. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 subsequently ordered schools to remain closed till January 18th, 2021 to contain the increase in COVID-19 infections in the country. The National Universities Commission, NEC, later asked universities to comply with the directive, but the PTF on Monday said the January 18 date is subject to review. Reacting in its statement, NANS said, rather than postpone school's resumption, it has become imperative to address the alarming spread of COVID-19 and rising cases of death from a position of environmental strategy and human coordination, since the lockdown mechanism can no longer be a mitigating option in the face of the country's economic reality. Civilization around the world has been celebrating the start of each year for ages with goal setting and new resolutions. But how did 2020 experience shape this age-long practice? Stay here. Extra Voices comes with an answer in a moment.
In the ever-revolving world of news, one story becomes extinct the moment another major story breaks.
Market women don't know whether they be anything.
But with KUFM's Extra Voices, the story never dies. It just takes on a new life.
Market meho.
There is no water in the house. The toilet is not good.
We don't have any fashion in APC.
We bring you new angles and fresh perspectives to every story, no matter how old or remote.
There are a lot of educated people that are involved in politics nowadays.
We go a little beyond the surface to get you those extra details ignored in the rush for the news.
Now bridge, now we take the entire now.
Some don't die for inside.
We go beyond the lines to bring extra voices, not just for those making the stories.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But for those affected by the stories.
I've lost one bag of rice, documents.
So it's a real disaster.
With Extra Voices, we add new flavor to give fresh perspective and taste to an old story. Extra Voices airs every Wednesday and weekends on KUFM's major news bulletins.
The anticipations and hopes that come with a new year are very inspiring, that most people go on to set goals and make a new year resolutions. Like the beginning of every year, 2020 came with such high hopes for many Nigerians. However, many of those hopes, dreams and aspirations never saw the light of the day due to disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and other unpleasant events. Now 2021 is here. What lesson did 2020 leave behind, and how has it shaped people's perceptions about setting goals and making New Year resolutions? Well, that's KUFM's Extra Voices first poser for 2021.
2020 remained like a dream to many people who kept on hoping that they will wake up to realities, hopes, dreams, and targets which they had set at the beginning of the year. However, it remained a wish as the year fizzled out in the most surprising way, leaving many helpless and hopeless. The coronavirus pandemic, the EndSARS protest, school closure, the sudden rise in exchange rates, and of course, double-digit inflation were all few of the experiences that left a sour taste behind.
Last year, 2020, there were resolutions and decisions, but not all came forth.
I had the resolutions for 2020, but I don't think I could do anything when it comes to the EndSARS, to the pandemic and everything.
To be candid, I didn't achieve my goals for last year, not because of financial issues, but due to COVID-19 palaver. And to be honest, I'm yet to even recover from it.
I just started my business last year, so I think the major goal for me was to push it, make it more visible to people, so I've been able to get clients. COVID came along and it kind of messed up everything.
But while many continue to pick the pieces from the 2020 experience, others like Oyeyemi Agosu, Damilola Akinpelu have good tales to share of how the 2020 frustration was a blessing in disguise for them.
In the beginning of 2020, I set up a goal to save up to get another accommodation, and with all the crisis going on with the COVID and everything, with EndSARS, I was able to achieve that goal and get a bigger and better place.
In 2020, I was due for a 6-month course. My goal was to earn a good grade and possibly get an award at the end of the course in December. I finished well. I achieved my goal.
Last year, I actually set some goals. Thank God, I was able to achieve some of my goals despite COVID-19 disruptions.
For 2020, the only resolution I took was to become a better version of myself. And I'm happy that it came to reality.
Last year, 2020, I set several goals. Part of it was opening my business. I was able to achieve tiny little things, even if we had restrictions due to the old COVID and EndSARS.
I did set a goal and I achieved that goal. Even with the COVID and the EndSARS, I was able to maintain it and achieve it.
With the experience of 2020 and over the years, the people still perceive the New Year resolutions as a good practice or an old school fantasy.
I've learned over the years not to make resolutions. I instead prefer to take each day as it comes, celebrate the small wins as well as the big wins. I found out that it helps reduce pressure to achieve goals, stick to resolutions.
You always set goals every January of every year. As far as you are a matured person, I did.
For some of us who actually did not have this mindset of doing New Year resolutions, we just have targets that we keep aiming to achieve year in, year out. For me, no New Year resolution.
But notwithstanding the shortcomings of 2020, many are still hopeful that the year 2021 holds plenty of prospects than the previous years.
When it comes to 2021, if 2020 had taught us anything, is that every year is not a given. We don't know what will happen. So let's just say I've carried all my New Year resolution of 2020 to 2021. I'm hoping for the best because this is a year of new beginnings.
There are some goals that I was planning to achieve last year, so I've already carried them over for this year. So let's see how it goes.
We'll look forward to 2021, that things will work out perfectly.
Though the coronavirus pandemic that blighted the hopes of 2020 is back again with a second wave, there is perhaps light at the end of the tunnel with the announcement of a new vaccine. But remember, that is never an excuse to throw caution to the wind. For KUFM's Extra Voices, Blessing Asekume.
Coming up in a moment on our business news, Nigerian Customs Service Apapa Command revenue hits 518 billion naira for 2020. Details in a moment.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 600 billion, and the last kobo. Oh yes, we follow the money. It's all about the business and the business of business. The gains and the losses. The bulls and bears. The rise and falls. The risk and the satisfaction of seeing the last kobo rise to millions. On KUFM's Business News, the simple and complex jargons of business just make sense. Get the trending news on the morning market, forecast, investment opportunities, policy changes, and other breakout information on the ever-busy world of business. KU Business News, Monday to Friday on our news dawn, 6:30 to 7 a.m.
The Nigerian Customs Service NCC Apapa Area Command has revealed that it made and remitted to the federal government a total revenue of 518.046 billion naira in 2020. This was revealed by the Comptroller Mohammed Abakura during a media briefing held in Lagos. The 2020 revenue figures indicate a 2.33% increase when compared with the preceding figure of 423.6 billion naira made in 2019. Abakura also revealed that the Central Bank of Nigeria is working towards resolving the issue of automation and sensitizing stakeholders in using the Nigerian export proceeds number. Finally, on business, Nigerian stocks market rose on Tuesday by 0.3% to 40,295.95 index points amid renewed buying activity. Trading in the Nigerian stock market started the day on a positive note as investors gained 8.10 billion naira, coupled with market capitalization settled at 21.06 trillion naira as against an opening of 20.99 trillion naira. Consequently, year-to-date moderated to 0.06%. The sectoral performance was positive as 3 out of the 5 indices tracked closed green. The NSE Insurance, NSE Industrial, and NSE Consumer Goods indices increased by 3.61%, 0.99%, and 0.36% respectively. On the flip side, the NCE Banking and Energy indices moderated by 0.62% and 0.05% respectively. Activities at the Nigerian Stock Exchange improved as the total volume traded increased. A total volume of 1.16 billion units of shares valued at 7.96 billion naira exchanged hands in 5,591 deals. Market sentiment as measured by market breadth was also positive as 27 stocks gained relative to 20 losers. NASCON and Adova PLC topped the gainers list, having advanced by 10% and 9.7% respective growth, while Oando and Julius Berger recorded the largest losses of the day after depreciating by 5.41% and 1.12% respectively. And that's it on business. And now in sports, where Sheffield beats Newcastle to end 20-game winless run. This and more on our sports bulletin shortly. Talking sports, where Sheffield United finally gained their first Premier League win of the season in their 18th game as they beat 10-man Newcastle United at Bramall Lane. Newcastle's Ryan Fraser was sent off late on its first half after he picked up 2 bookings in a 3-minute spell following fouls on John Flick and David McGoldrick. With a little over 15 minutes remaining, the Blades were awarded a penalty when Federico Fernandez handled the ball. Substitute Billy Sharp sent goalkeeper Carl Dallow the wrong way from the spot for what proved the only goal of the game. Ryan Brewster nearly added a second for the hosts late on, but his deflected strike from 20 yards hit the foot of the post. The victory ended a club record run of 20 league matches without a win since the Blades beat Chelsea 3-0 on July 11th, before ending the 2019-2020 season with 3 successive defeats. Meanwhile, Newcastle, who have now gone 8 games without a win in all competitions, remains 15th, 8 points clear of the relegation zone. In other games, Paul Pogba scored the winning goal for Manchester United against Burnley, while Everton maintained their challenge for a Champions League spot with a 2-1 victory against Wolves. And that's it in sports. And that's the news, but before we go, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. On the news this morning, we told you that JAMB will begin to prosecute violators of admissions process. And also here in Uniben, the chapters of SANU and NASU joined 3-day national protest. And finally on Newsdawn on today's Extra Voices, it takes a look at how 2020 experience has shaped the culture of goal setting and New Year resolution. Please do remember that the continued unity of Nigeria is a collective responsibility. Be sure to play your part. Do not forget, you can listen to us anywhere in the world, either by visiting our website at www.kufm.net, or you can download our KU mobile app from the Google Play Store. For visual purposes, you can join us live on YouTube at KUFM Nigeria, and you can now listen to us on radiogarden.com. KUFM News Dawn was produced by Blessing Asekome. I am God's Love, Orlando, saying thanks for listening and good morning.
We're back. And this is how we put it down, you know what I'm talking about. Turn up the volume.
92.7. More music. More variety. Turn it up. 92.7.